In a universe where absolute power rules, a mysterious mascot reveals the ultimate hierarchy of nature's greatest predators. Legend tells of two supreme beasts dominating the realm, the wild white wolf and the majestic golden lion. But destiny has a strange sense of humor, introducing a completely unexpected contender to this ruthless hierarchy. An overwhelming wave of sheer disbelief strikes the small creature as reality sets in. The tiny beast realizes the absolute absurdity of its situation, questioning how such a terrifying legend could become a mere bunny. Staring into the mirror, the truth becomes undeniable as a tiny harmless form stares back. Despair quickly takes over as the helpless creature contemplates its bleak future. Despite a grand divine prophecy of doom, the tiny rabbit is left with nothing but useless, adorable charm. This is no ordinary rabbit, but a destined harbinger of absolute destruction. Dark destiny foretells the complete collapse of two of the Empire's most powerful noble lineages. The story shifts to the grand and imposing Armas estate, the legendary stronghold of the powerful wolf clan. A cheerful maid stops the young white-haired lady, who eagerly announces she's on her way to see her mother. The household staff can barely contain their excitement over how incredibly adorable their young lady is today. As Chloe runs down the corridor, the servants wonder if she will inherit the ferocity of the wolves or the lions. A sudden realization flashes in the vibrant green eyes of the young girl. Proudly introducing the young lady of the house, Chloe Aris, who stands ready to face her destiny. The official title card sets the stage for a grand tale of hidden beasts and deceptive appearances. In this extraordinary fantasy world, powerful beastkin clans govern the land with ancient authority. History speaks of a supreme god who divided the continent among four exceptionally gifted beastkin families. The eagle of the east, Grevis, and the immortal snake of the west, Deimos, ruled their territories with legendary powers. Meanwhile, the mana-wielding lion, Leander, and the combat-hardened wolf, Eris, dominated the remaining regions. Over generations, their divine powers began to fade, threatening to fracture the peace and trigger an ancient prophecy. To unite the crumbling factions, a grand political marriage took place between the lion and wolf clans. From this historic union, Chloe was born as the ultimate symbol of hope for both families. But the fragile peace shattered when her parents suddenly finalized their bitter divorce. Whenever Chloe tries to uncover the truth, her family quickly dodges the sensitive subject. Determined to find answers, the young girl struggles to open the heavy chamber doors. Inside, Chloe spots her mother, Princess Melissa of the Wolf Clan, looking deeply melancholic. Chloe quietly observes her mother's sadness, feeling a heavy weight in her chest. She notes that her mother always grows gloomy during the spring season of the divorce, leaving her to wonder about the dark secrets of the past. Deciding to give her mother space, the young girl quietly closes the door. Walking along the balcony, Chloe desperately searches for a way to cheer her mother up. A brilliant idea suddenly strikes her, filling her with newfound determination. She heads down to the lush gardens and carefully picks a pristine white blossom. Chloe hums happily as she gathers a beautiful, fragrant bouquet of fresh white flowers. She smiles brightly, confident that this beautiful gift will bring a smile back to a mother's face. Suddenly, a strange rustling sound in the nearby bushes catches her off guard. Chloe turns her attention toward the dense foliage as the mysterious movement continues. To her utter surprise, a tiny, adorable white baby rabbit pops out of the leaves. Chloe squeals in delight at the sight of the incredibly cute little creature. She kneels down, warmly welcoming the tiny visitor to her garden sanctuary. But the baby rabbit freezes in pure terror, sensing a deadly presence. Before Chloe can react, the terrified bunny leaps away at lightning speed. She wonders if her inherited predator aura scared the poor creature away. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoes from above, causing her to look up in alarm. High in the sky, a massive predatory silhouette circles menacingly. To her horror, a giant razor-sharp eagle dives straight toward her with terrifying speed. Chloe screams in absolute panic as the deadly predator closes the distance. Fleeing for her life, she drops her beautiful bouquet and runs as fast as her small legs can carry her.
Blinding flash of light erupts, leaving her fate hanging in the ultimate downs.
A sudden earth-shattering shockwave shatters the silence, signaling a chaotic awakening. Inside her room, the girl gasps in relief, glad she survived the deadly encounter. Sweating in panic, she frantically wonders why a predator suddenly targeted her. Sitting up in bed, she questions why she ran away instead of fighting. Looking down at her new limbs, a sudden realization begins to dawn. She turns to the mirror, ready to see what she has become. She gasps in shock at her own cute reflection in the mirror. Staring at herself, she panics and questions why she became a rabbit. Pulling around on her back, she denies that wolf-lion parents had a rabbit.
She stops her paws, begging her body to shift back into a wolf.
She winces, wondering if she hit herself too hard trying to shift. Her initial shock fades as memories of a distant past begin to return. She remembers glimpses of her past life, recognizing a harsh and painful upbringing. A deep realization washes over her as she remembers her entire past life. She recalls a novel called Prejudice and Prejudice and Prejudice, where she reincarnated. She remembers the story's tragic beginning, where her father kills her and her mother. The horrific tragedy sparks a massive war that nearly destroys the entire continent. Two key protagonists eventually emerge to end the war and bring lasting peace. Trembling, she finally understands the dark motives that drove her father's extreme actions. Tears well up in her eyes as the cruel truth becomes clear. She realizes her father's despair came from expecting a powerful predator child. Instead of a mighty beast, the powerful union bizarrely produced an adorable rabbit. She panics, realizing her father will suspect her mother of cheating and betrayal. A sudden, horrifying realization strikes her mind, making her stop in terror. She panics upon suddenly hearing her mother's voice outside the bedroom door. A recruitment banner marks a temporary transition in the dramatic narrative. Frantic and sweating, she desperately wonders how she can hide her form. Her heart drops as her mother prepares to open the door. She suddenly remembers that today is the day of her birthday dress fitting. Her mother, Melissa, opens the door to greet her daughter for the day. Melissa halts in surprise as she steps into the bedroom to look. Having successfully shifted back, Chloe tells her mother she is perfectly fine. Suddenly, her cheerful uncle bursts into the room to join the family celebration. Her uncle happily lifts her up, excited for her birthday dress fitting. Melissa and her uncle dote on her, prompting Chloe's internal sigh. Deep down, the terrifying secret of her true form remains hidden. She admits to herself that her successful transformation was pure luck. Chloe stands anxiously, wondering how to control her unpredictable shifting abilities. Her mother and uncle panic when they see her crying, asking if she is hurt. Reassured by their love, she resolves to tell them and stop the war. She hesitates, trying to find the words to reveal her rabbit form. Before she can speak, they distract her with a special lunch offer. They cheerfully announce that the special lunch of the day is rabbit. Deep shock and absolute terror strike her as the words sink in. She stands completely frozen, paralyzed by the extreme danger of her situation. She imagines her predator family gleefully carving her up for a meal. Sweating profusely, she decides her immediate priority must be pure survival. Her survival now depends entirely on keeping her rabbit identity a secret. A few hours pass as she mentally prepares for the challenge ahead. The grand mansion stands tall, housing the deadly secrets of the clan. A delicate destiny begins to unfold as the household presents a special gown while her mother praises its beauty. Her family notices her lingering sadness and quietly discusses her unusually somber mood. The silver-haired uncle releases a heavy sigh, deeply concerned for the child's well-being. Suddenly, Chloe bursts into the room in a wild panic, desperately pleading to never be fed rabbit meat. Startled guardians ask if she has already finished getting dressed for the day. She takes her first elegant steps in her beautiful new birthday gown. Her mother and uncle gasp in awe, completely captivated by her divine appearance. Chloe stands proudly in her layered pink gown, looking absolutely magnificent. Her family marvels at her striking, vibrant green eyes. They continue to gush over her lustrous hair and adorable blushing cheeks. While her guardians eagerly agree on her cuteness, Chloe internally groans at their overwhelming adoration. She complains that they are being far too dramatic and embarrassing her. Her uncle enthusiastically begs for a warm embrace while her mother happily joins in. Chloe forces a bright, adorable smile to appease her doting guardians. Her uncle gloats about their perfect preparations, leaving Chloe thoroughly confused by his words. Suddenly, a booming voice calls for someone to enter the room. A maid rolls in massive racks displaying countless elegant dresses from across the territory. Melissa beams with absolute pride, delighted to present the grand collection to her daughter. Chloe stares in absolute horror at the endless mountain of dresses she is expected to wear. Summoning her remaining strength, the young girl prepares to endure the exhausting wardrobe fitting. Waking up late at night in her nightgown, Chloe wonders how she returned to her bed after passing out. A thunderous shout suddenly echoes through the corridor, questioning why a dangerous visitor has been granted an audience with Chloe. Chloe immediately recognizes her uncle's angry voice and freezes in alarm. Her uncle rages against Chloe's father, accusing him of returning only to play parent after abandoning them. The terrifying revelation that her father wants to meet her leaves Chloe completely paralyzed with fear. Her uncle grimly recalls the painful day Melissa returned pregnant and demanding a divorce. He laments how Melissa suffered in silence under a cruel prophecy, cursing himself for letting her marry that man. Melissa softly defends her choice, asking what would have happened if she refused and triggered a devastating war. She notes their depleted defenses, but her brother fiercely declares he welcomes a war to break the Lion Clan's choking trade restrictions. White-haired uncle viciously cracks his knuckles, ready to crush their rivals once and for all. Listening from the corridor, Chloe trembles as she realizes her fragile secret could spark a continental war. Melissa hesitates, her anxious silence highlighting the gravity of their desperate situation. Melissa tries to defend the father's request, but her brother warns of the Lion Clan's brutal history of discarding their weak offspring. He bellows that the lions show no mercy, sacrificing even their own bloodline. He firmly rejects the idea that a monster like that could feel any genuine fatherly love. Chloe stands in petrified silence, realizing the extreme danger she is in as a weak rabbit. Remembering the original novel's dark lore, Chloe realizes the entire world is built on these brutal prejudices and experiments. She recalls how the four gifted Beastkin clans inherited their terrifying supernatural abilities. Over centuries of isolation, deep-seated prejudices solidified among the dominant territories, fueling mutual hatred. These ancient misunderstandings eventually shattered their fragile peace, paving the way for ruin. Even the original novel's main leads had their fateful first meeting completely ruined by stupid misconceptions. Chloe desperately hopes these stories are just rumors, terrified of being thrown off a cliff by her father. She shudders at the horrifying prospect of becoming a twisted laboratory experiment. Yielding to her brother's fierce conviction, Melissa resolves to toughen up for her daughter's sake. As her mother approaches the room, Chloe panics and runs to leap back into bed. She scrambles across the floor with frantic speed. The terrified girl dives under her bedsheets just in the nick of time. Melissa carefully peeks into the room, wondering why the door was left open. She quietly walks over to the bed where her daughter lies perfectly still. Gently stroking Chloe's hair, her mother smiles warmly, completely unaware of the looming storm that is about to tear their empire apart. A mother's fierce vow of protection pierces through the darkness, promising to shield her precious daughter from the trials to come. Her mother stands tall, wrapped in an elegant green gown, looking both beautiful and deeply resolute in her silent devotion. Under a tranquil blue sky, a momentary sense of peace settles over the quiet household. Safely tucked beneath her bedsheets, the young girl hides as her mother gently opens the door to check on her. Tears well up in the young girl's green eyes as she silently calls out to her mother in the quiet room. Sitting up on her bed, she desperately recalls the tragic details of the novel, remembering how the original story doomed the entire wolf clan. She knows that if the original timeline continues, even the bright, smiling maids who adore her will face a tragic end. Her doting mother and silver-haired uncle, who cherish her more than life itself, are also destined for destruction unless she changes their fate. Tears stream down her cheeks as she resolves to prevent this horrific tragedy from tearing her new life apart. She remembers the painful abuse of her past life, contrasting it with the overwhelming love she receives now. Her current family's deep affection and constant worry for her well-being show her what a real family truly feels like. Determined to protect them at all costs, the young girl steps out of bed to take matters into her own hands. Grabbing a colored crayon, she prepares to plan her strategy on a blank sketchbook. She focuses her mind on the upcoming timeline, ready to pinpoint the exact sequence of events. The threat of the Lion Clan's brutal invasion looms large, signaling the exact moment her mother is destined to be gravely wounded. Suddenly, she gasps in pure shock as she catches her reflection in the mirror and spots her rabbit ears popping out. Panicking, she frantically tries to press her ears down to hide her secret rabbit identity. She stands anxiously before her reflection, desperate to regain control over her unpredictable shifting abilities. Frustrated by her stubborn transformation, she jots down vital notes in her sketchbook about the impending danger of the Lion Clan. A temporary pause settles over the dramatic narrative, building anticipation for the fateful events ahead. Quiet before the storm deepens as the story prepares to shift to a grand celebration. Dressed in an elegant yellow gown, the young princess is escorted down the long corridor by a maid. The entire household eagerly awaits the moment their beloved young mistress makes her grand debut. Bright golden light floods the room as the grand doors swing open, welcoming the young princess to her birthday celebration. Her mother and silver-haired uncle cheer enthusiastically, showering her with love and warm birthday wishes. Chloe beams with a bright, beautiful smile, completely melting the hearts of everyone in attendance. Happy maids shower her with beautifully wrapped birthday gifts, gushing over how adorable she looks. Sweating in mild confusion, the young princess is overwhelmed by the intense adoration of her staff. Her uncle proudly boasts about her angelic beauty to her brown-haired escort knight, Brooks, who nods in polite agreement. With a grateful bow, she politely thanks everyone for their incredible kindness and warm celebrations. The grand banquet hall is filled with joy, music, and laughter as painters capture the joyous celebration of the young princess. Despite the festive atmosphere, Chloe glances aside, feeling the heavy weight of her hidden secrets. Brooks steps forward, clearing his throat politely to deliver his heartfelt birthday wishes to the princess.
She playfully questions why he is dressed in his standard uniform instead of fancy attire, but he maintains his duty-bound posture.
He then presents her with a handmade stuffed doll, leaving her completely stunned by its uncanny resemblance to her. Blushing in embarrassment, the young knight explains that the doll is meant to represent her. Overjoyed by the thoughtful present, Chloe happily hugs the adorable doll, much to the young knight's relief. She cradles her new favorite toy close to her chest, feeling incredibly touched by his sweet gesture. Lifted up by her uncle, she stands before a magnificent, multi-tiered birthday cake as her mother urges her to make a wish. She gently clasps her hands together and closes her eyes, focusing her thoughts on her deepest desire. Holding the doll tight, she silently promises to work her hardest to protect her beloved family. She prays to the gods that her family and all the citizens of the kingdom remain completely safe from harm. Embracing her doting mother and uncle, she feels a sudden rush of optimism that everything will turn out perfectly fine. Her fleeting peace is shattered instantly when a guard bursts through the door with urgent news. The exhausted messenger gasps for breath, his eyes wide with absolute panic. He delivers a terrifying announcement that the Lion Clan has launched a surprise invasion, warping straight into the royal palace. Outside, the chaotic clash of steel echoes as the invading forces command their soldiers to find Princess Chloe. Drawing her sword, Melissa bravely commands Brooks to take her daughter to safety, realizing she is the primary target. Brooks swiftly scoops the young princess into his arms and flees down the corridor, desperate to escape the closing trap. Swords clash and shields shatter as the proud Wolf Clan rallies to defend their territory, but the original timeline has already begun to unravel. A terrifying vision of blood and steel flashes before her eyes, signaling her mother's imminent demise. Desperate to save her family, Chloe demands answers about her mother as Brooks runs down the corridor. Chloe frantically pleads to return, but Brooks insists they must prioritize her safety above all else. Suddenly, her mother's fierce battle cry echoes from afar, bringing Chloe to a sudden halt. Brooks gasps in absolute shock as he witnesses bunny ears sprout from the princess's head. Before he can react, a sudden impact knocks the young knight off balance. Fallen on the floor, Brooks watches in disbelief as Chloe escapes with her newly revealed bunny ears. The unexpected acceleration of the invasion timeline threatens to derail her plans entirely. Chloe runs frantically, knowing her mother's injury will trigger a devastating war across the continent. Stealing her resolve, the young princess bursts through the doors to find her mother. She cries out in panic upon finding her mother surrounded by hostiles. Melissa is horrified to see her precious daughter enter the dangerous active battlefield. Spotting the princess, the menacing masked enemy soldiers immediately launch a dark magic attack. Fueled by maternal rage, Melissa commands Chloe to close her eyes before unleashing her wrath. Chloe shields her eyes as a devastating clash leaves her enemies completely vanquished. Melissa rushes over to comfort her daughter, who is trembling violently from the trauma. Running back to the chamber, Brooke searches frantically for the missing princess. Finding them unharmed, the loyal knight lets out a massive sigh of relief. Melissa fiercely reprimands Brooks for his failure, and he humbly begs for her forgiveness. Melissa decides to accompany them to ensure her daughter safely reaches the designated hideout. Under the cover of night, they safely arrive at a majestic, isolated stone tower. Inside the wooden panic room, Chloe desperately begs her mother not to leave her behind. She silently wishes her mother could simply avoid the dangerous fighting altogether. Melissa smiles warmly, proudly declaring herself the strongest warrior of the Grey Wolves. Clinging to her mother, Chloe sheds silent tears during their emotional tight embrace. Her mother gently asks her to trust in her power and wait patiently. Fighting back her immense fear, Chloe reluctantly agrees to stay hidden in the room. Melissa delivers a heartfelt confession of love before slowly closing the wooden door. Left in total darkness, Chloe laments her complete helplessness to alter this tragic timeline. Suddenly, the chilling creak of the door opening alerts the young princess to an intruder. Trembling with fear, she covers her ears as unfamiliar footsteps search for her hideout. The terror triggers a painful flashback to her past life being hunted by a ruthless abuser. She remembers cowering in fear as a child while her tormentor threatened her life. Merging past and present trauma, Chloe desperately prays for a savior to rescue her. The heavy wooden door slowly creaks wide open, exposing her secret hiding place. The terrifying shadow of her past tormentor seems to materialize before her very eyes. She cowers in absolute terror as a blonde-haired young man stands before her, begging him not to strike. Clasped in desperate prayer, the young girl tearfully begs the stranger for mercy and forgiveness. The blonde-haired young prince freezes in utter shock and sorrow at her heartbroken state. Chloe slowly opens her tear-filled green eyes, looking up at her silent, stunned visitor. A peaceful, radiant blue aura of divine light suddenly envelops the dark room. Tears stream down the green-eyed young prince's face as he looks at the fragile child. The emotional young man slowly drops to one knee to meet her eye level. Offering a gentle, tearful smile, he extends his open hand toward the terrified princess. Gazing at his outstretched hand, Chloe wonders if this mysterious boy could truly be her savior. Surrounded by a warm, magical glow, he patiently waits for her to accept his hand. Peaceful transition shifts the narrative back to a core memory from Chloe's infancy. Melissa sits comfortably in a rocking chair reading a storybook to her baby daughter. In the present, a sudden realization strikes Chloe as a single tear falls. Staring ahead in silence, she wonders why these tears are suddenly flowing down her cheeks. An emotional memory of her white-haired mother crying flashes through the young princess's mind as she sleeps. The tragic memories of the past begin to unfold as a new chapter of her life begins. Chloe opens her vibrant green eyes, deeply unsettled by the sudden rush of dreamlike memories. Sitting up in a massive bed, she looks around in confusion, realizing she is no longer in her own room. Her eyes dart upward as she begins to notice the unfamiliar foreign surroundings. She stares in disbelief at the incredibly lavish, grand ceiling above her. Glancing toward the center of the room, she spots two blonde-haired men sitting in luxurious chairs. She instantly recognizes the younger blonde-haired man in the black shirt as her savior from the tower. A vivid flashback shows the young blonde-haired prince crying as he reached out to her. She remembers collapsing in his arms as exhaustion completely overtook her body. In her memory, the frantic young prince cradled her close and carried her away into the dark night. She recalls the chaotic battle scene outside where the wolf clan desperately fought as the prince escaped with her. Distant, distorted screams of her name echo through the fading memories of her capture. The cold reality finally sinks in that she has indeed been taken by the rival lion clan. Hiding beneath her covers, she clutches her stuffed doll, desperately trying to plan her next move. Overhearing a conversation, she is shocked to hear them describing horrific acts of child abuse. The voices continue to detail terrifying experiments performed on a helpless young captive. Chloe's eyes widen in pure horror as she realizes they believe she was locked in a wardrobe. They pity her for desperately clinging to a worn-out doll, leaving her completely baffled. She holds her stuffed toy close, suddenly realizing they think her own family abused her. The younger blonde-haired man sits solemnly, completely convinced by the grim reports of his spies. Hearing her beloved mother slandered sends a sudden wave of hot anger through her veins. Unable to stay quiet any longer, Chloe bursts out of the covers and fiercely defends her family's name. She stands tall on the bed, her sudden outburst catching both blonde-haired men completely off guard. A wave of panic washes over her as she realizes she completely lost her temper and gave herself away. Fearing their reaction, she scrambles to come up with a quick plan to hide her mistake. She desperately clutches her yellow blanket, preparing to dive back under the covers. Pulling the sheets up to her face, she squeezes her eyes shut to pretend she was fast asleep the whole time. Realizing the act won't work, she stretches cutely and tries to play it off as a normal morning greeting. She glances at the two blonde-haired men and the older one asks if she slept well. The older man's gentle voice strikes a deep chord of familiarity in her mind. A flashback reveals the same older blonde-haired man once kneeling before her in royal attire. Sudden realization hits her as she remembers seeing his face in her mother's wedding portrait. She stares closely at the older blonde-haired man, trying to piece together his true identity. But her gaze shifts to the younger blonde-haired man, wondering who he could possibly be. A terrifying memory of the original novel timeline flashes before her, showing her uncle's brutal killer. She identifies the older blonde-haired man as Ian Leander, the dangerous head of the Lion Clan. Chloe clutches her blanket in terror, knowing any wrong move in this place could trigger a devastating war. Knowing she must stop this conflict, she gathers all her courage and prepares to clear up the massive misunderstanding. Rising to her feet, she loudly declares to the room that her family loves her and never abused her. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and gently touches her arm, catching her completely off guard. The younger blonde-haired prince softly reassures her and suggests they eat a meal before talking. Two blonde-haired men quietly exit the grand bedroom, leaving the princess to her thoughts. Chloe sits alone on the massive bed, completely exhausted by the sheer tension of the situation. She looks down at her hands, wondering how she can possibly convince them of the truth. Soon after, a cart of delicious warm stew is rolled into her room. Two stern-looking maids with dark shadows over their eyes tower menacingly over her. The maids demand to know why she barely touched her food, sending shivers down her spine. Chloe shrinks back in tears, completely intimidated by the intense, terrifying gazes of the house staff. The maids finally roll the cart away, leaving the young princess alone with her looming fears. Caught in the web of enemy territory, Princess Chloe must act fast if she hopes to survive this terrifying game of politics. The two solemn maids quietly excuse themselves from the guest chambers. Left to her own thoughts, Chloe analyzes the unusual atmosphere of the estate and the heavy guard presence. She reflects on the terrifying truth of this world's magical abilities powered by mysterious mana stones. Calling tales of the wealthy lion territory, she remembers that powerful magic stones are supposedly common. Stealing her determination, the young princess decides to search her room for a hidden magic stone. She eagerly starts her search by pulling open drawers filled with baby toys. Tossing clothes aside, she hunts through every nook and cranny of her massive wardrobe. To her utter dismay, the bedroom floor is littered with nothing but useless baby garments. Completely exhausted, Chloe collapses onto the floor, lamenting the lack of any powerful relics. Peering underneath the massive bed, she suddenly spots a glowing, decorative box hidden away. She gasps in excitement, hoping this mysterious container holds a powerful magic stone. Sitting up with sparkling green eyes, the young princess prepares to claim her prize. Her heart races as she gets ready to unlock the secret contents of the hidden chest. With a sharp click, the heavy wooden lock of the secure chest opens. As the lid swings back, a strange purple mist rises, leaving Chloe completely stunned. A quiet, somber shift in the atmosphere matches the dark floral details of her surroundings. Taking a brief, lighthearted break from the tension, Chloe addresses her readers directly with a cute explanation. Returning to her discovery, she stares in absolute disbelief at the contents of the chest. The dark purple blooms cast a quiet, mysterious shadow over the ongoing investigation. Inside the chest, she finds neatly packed baby beanies, shoes, and pristine clothing. A sudden realization hits her as she questions the bizarre abundance of infant toys in her room. Chloe sits in utter defeat, realizing she has found yet another pile of baby gear. She remembers the original story's lore regarding her supposedly cruel new family. A memory of the crying young blonde prince flashes in her mind, revealing his pure, tearful affection. She clutches her chest, deeply touched by the revelation that they prepared this room specifically for her comfort. Slapping her cheeks, she commands herself not to jump to hasty conclusions without hard evidence. Clenching her small fist, she resolves to stay focused on her primary goal of locating a mana stone. A warm flashback of her biological parents smiling down at her fuels her determination. After a long night of fruitless searching, Chloe's frustrated that she found absolutely no magic stones. She politely asks the head maid for permission to explore the estate's outdoor grounds. Outside, a beautiful white dove takes flight into the bright sunny sky above the courtyard. Walking along the paved balcony, Chloe watches the bird glide over the lush palace gardens. Suddenly, she overhears servants whispering rumors about her background and her family. The gossipers continue to spread false rumors about her being an abused captive of the wolf clan. Observing the stern, dark-eyed servants from a distance, she laments that even her father and uncle are being slandered. Incensed by the lies, Chloe decides she can no longer let these false stories circulate. She whips around with absolute resolve, ready to confront the gossiping staff. Taking a bold step forward, she loudly begins to declare the truth to defend her mother's honor. Suddenly, a menacing hand lunges from the shadows, catching her completely off guard. A servant quickly grabs her arm, halting her sudden movement before she can speak. The main maid pulls Chloe close, checking on her with a deeply worried expression. The rest of the servants tremble in utter panic, frantically explaining that she almost suffered a terrible fall. Chloe looks back in confusion, noticing a tiny pebble that she supposedly almost tripped over. She looks up at the panicking servants, completely stunned by their intense overprotectiveness. Sudden warmth fills her heart as she realizes she misjudged their stern, scary-looking expressions. The servants frantically argue about removing every single loose rock from the courtyard to keep her safe. Realizing how much they care, Chloe understands that both rival clans are caught in a massive misunderstanding. Inspired by their genuine kindness, she gathers her courage to bridge the gap between their families. Looking bright and determined, she asks the maid to guide her to a new destination to start her mission. Trapped in a web of lies, Princess Chloe spots a massive tower, hoping it holds the key to her survival. Gazing out from her high vantage point, she marvels at how majestic the Lion Clan's territory looks compared to her home. A bright smile lights up her face as she realizes this is the very tower where powerful mana stones are crafted. When the maid happily explains that the tower is fortified with protective magic, Chloe barely hides her golden opportunity. Surveying the towering outer walls of the fortress, she notes just how secure the entire estate truly is. Chloe freezes in pure shock when the maid claims no army on Earth could ever breach these walls. Desperate to find an escape route, she frantically scans the massive fortifications for any weak points. Suddenly, a pair of gentle hands folds over hers, catching the young princess completely by surprise. The brown-haired maid smiles warmly, her loyal heart completely devoted to keeping the young girl safe. The guards fiercely swear to protect her with their lives against the supposedly evil wolf clan. Chloe looks down in quiet distress, realizing their deep misunderstanding makes returning to her real family nearly impossible. Gripping the white stone balcony railing tightly, a wave of frustration washes over the young princess. Steeling her resolve, she stands tall, prepared to tell him the absolute truth about her loving family. She insists with all her heart that she was showered with love back home, desperate to clear their name. A heavy silence hangs in the air as the sheer weight of her emotional plea echoes around them. To her absolute despair, the emotional servants only weep, believing she is selflessly putting on a brave face. Frustrated, Chloe stomps her foot on the balcony, demanding they finally listen to what she has to say. Disaster strikes in an instant as the fragile stone railing suddenly snaps right beneath her feet. In a heart-stopping moment of pure horror, Chloe loses her balance and plummets backward off the high balcony. The panicking maid lunges forward in a desperate screaming attempt to catch the falling princess. Distant, frantic screams ring out across the courtyard as her caretakers watch her fall in absolute terror. Time seems to slow down as Chloe tumbles through the air, completely helpless to stop her descent. Squeezing her eyes shut, a wave of dark dread washes over her as she braces for the worst. A sudden, powerful impact shatters the terrifying silence, shifting the fate of the young princess. Opening her eyes, Chloe finds herself cradled in a strong embrace, wondering how she survived the deadly fall. Her heart skips a beat as she recognizes the deep, familiar voice of her savior. Looking up, Chloe is horrified to see the cold, furious face of the Duke, Ian Leander, holding her close. A trembling voice desperately begs for mercy as the staff faces the master's absolute wrath. Holding his daughter tightly, the Duke coldly scolds his bowing servants for failing their most critical duty. The terrified staff profusely apologizes, admitting they foolishly relied too heavily on the outer wall's protective magic. Hearing their excuse, Chloe peeks out from behind her father's arm, her curiosity instantly piqued. She gasps in utter amazement as she spots a piece of the broken balcony floating midair, held by glowing magic. The Duke's cold, imposing aura intensifies, completely rejecting their excuses with a terrifying drop in temperature. Snapping back to reality, Chloe panics, realizing she must speak up to save the innocent servants from punishment.
She hurriedly explains that she is perfectly fine and that she was the one who insisted on coming outside.
But the Duke coldly commands her to remain silent, insisting the servants must still face the consequences of their failure. Terrified by his overwhelming authority, Chloe buries her face into his shoulder, trying to think fast. She knows she cannot let these kind and protective people suffer because of her own reckless actions. Looking at the tearful, shivering staff, her heart aches with guilt as they brace for their punishment. Desperate to diffuse the tension, Chloe wonders if using a cute act will work on this terrifying man. Gathering all her courage, her tiny hand reaches up and tightly grips his elegant collar. She squeezes her eyes shut, preparing to deliver the most dramatic performance of her life. Squeezing out fake tears, she wails dramatically, calling out to her father to stop the conflict. A sudden wave of pure shock ripples through the entire courtyard, freezing everyone in their tracks. The Duke and his staff freeze in absolute wide-eyed bewilderment, completely stunned by her sudden exclamation. Sneaking a quick peek, Chloe keeps up her tearful act, hoping her performance was enough to melt his icy heart. The tense atmosphere begins to soften as her adorable display completely derails the Duke's fearsome anger. Calm finally begins to settle over the massive Leander Palace gardens as the twilight sky deepens. To make absolutely sure her plan works, Chloe doubles down on her emotional plea, screaming for her father once more. Squeezing out one final perfect tear, the clever princess waits breathlessly to see if this terrifying warlord will finally yield to her charms. A thunderous silence drops over the grand courtyard as Chloe's desperate exclamation echoes, leaving the terrifying Duke and his entire staff completely frozen in absolute wide-eyed bewilderment. Breaking the tense stillness, the powerful Duke gently squeezes his daughter's tiny hand, calling her name with a soft, unexpected warmth that cuts through the icy atmosphere. Looking down at the silver-haired princess, the Duke's cold, fearsome facade completely melts away into a look of tender concern as he pulls her closer. Slowly and with immense care, the powerful warlord sets Chloe back onto her feet, ensuring she is safe and secure on the solid ground. Bringing himself down to her level, the Duke kneels before the young princess, showing a side of gentle respect that no servant has ever witnessed before. A soft, genuine smile graces his handsome features, radiating an affectionate warmth that completely disarms the anxious young girl. Chloe stares back with her large, luminous green eyes, utterly mesmerized by the sheer kindness shining from a father she once believed to be a monster. A fleeting memory of her late mother, Melissa, crying tears of bittersweet sorrow flashes through Chloe's mind, hinting at a hidden past of deep emotional pain. Squeezing her eyes shut, Chloe tries to piece together the truth of her parents' tragic, misunderstood love story. She wonders if her mother's deep love for her father made his overwhelming kindness too painful to bear. A gentle touch on her chin suddenly snaps Chloe out of her deep thoughts, causing her to blink in surprise. The Duke tilts her head up affectionately, leaving the flustered princess struggling to maintain her dramatic, cute act. Taking a swift step back, Chloe realizes she must act quickly to dispel the terrible rumors and resolve the bitter feud between their rival families. The Duke and his loyal servants watch the young girl intently, waiting to see what the small princess will do next. Clutching her chest with supreme determination, Chloe prepares to speak the truth and defend the honor of both clans once and for all. A new chapter begins as Chloe sets out to change the destiny of her two warring families. Towering high into the golden sky, the majestic Manastone Tower stands as the ultimate destination for Chloe's secret mission. Stepping into the grand marble halls of the tower, Chloe walks alongside her father, though a lingering doubt still weighs heavily on her mind. Placing his strong hand gently on her head, the Duke agrees with her, his touch offering comfort and reassurance. With a soft, comforting smile, Ian gently reminds her that her late mother loved her too much to ever cause her harm. Yet, behind his warm words, Chloe senses a deep, heartbreaking loneliness in her father's eyes. Shaking off the heavy sadness, Chloe clenches her tiny fists and tells herself to stay focused and positive. Together, the father and daughter venture deeper into the mysterious depths of the tower. A bright, mesmerizing light pours through a set of massive double doors, revealing the secrets hidden inside. Chloe gasps in absolute amazement as she enters a treasure room glittering with an abundance of rare, glowing mana stones. Turning back to her, the Duke softly beckons her to come closer to the display. Chloe steps forward with wide, curious eyes, wondering what her father has in store for her. Standing before the breathtaking display of ancient crystals, Chloe's heart beats fast with excitement. But as the Duke offers these treasures to her, a wave of bittersweet resentment washes over Chloe instead of pure joy. She tightly grips her floral dress, wishing her adoptive wolf family back home had access to even a fraction of this magical wealth. She remembers the hardships of the wolf clan, who struggled constantly because the powerful lion clan blocked their vital mana stone supplies. She recalls the selfless, silver-haired prince of the wolf clan refusing medical resources to save others, even while suffering himself. The dark memory fades, returning her focus to the shimmering treasures of the present. Chloe begins to wonder if her father is truly the ruthless tyrant behind the supply blocks, or if someone else is pulling the strings. Snapping her out of her thoughts, Ian kneels down once again, presenting a beautiful, ornate black box. With a soft click, he opens the lid to reveal a stunning, brilliantly glowing diamond ring. Gently taking her small hand, the Duke slides the precious protective ring onto her finger. Chloe stares at her hand in absolute awe as the magical stone sparkles with radiant white light. She realizes this single ring possesses far greater power than any magical artifact she ever saw with the Wolf Clan. Looking at her with unmatched affection, the Duke warmly asks if there is anything else her heart desires. Spotting a rows of massive glowing crystals, Chloe is overwhelmed by her father's endless generosity. Clenching her fist, she realizes she now has the power she needs to take the next critical step in her plan. With a bright, determined expression, she prepares to execute her daring rescue mission. Later that evening, the Duke is busy reviewing official documents in his study when a sudden knock interrupts his work. The headmaid enters, and the Duke immediately inquires if his beloved daughter successfully caught the bird she was chasing. The maid fondly reports that the young princess chased the bird with the fierce, wild energy of a true lion house heir. A warm, proud smile spreads across the Duke's face as he expresses his immense relief at her high spirits. But the warm mood shifts instantly as the maid reports that mysterious traces of foreign protective magic were detected in Chloe's room. His trusted glasses-wearing advisor explains that the magic was linked to the bird, tracing directly back to the rival Wolf Clan territory. Standing up with cold, calculated calm, the Duke reveals he anticipated this trace all along, cryptically ordering his men to leave the situation exactly as it is. A silent storm brews in the palace as the advisor obeys his master's terrifying command. Mysterious footsteps echo through the dimly lit palace corridors, carrying a heavy sense of dread. Sitting gently by his daughter's bedside, Ian fondly notes how much her sleeping habits resemble her mother's. Quietly contemplating in the dim light, a solemn and painful stillness fills the room. Bittersweet memories of his late wife Melissa begin to wash over his troubled mind. He warmly recalls the radiant, pure joy of their past embrace before everything fell apart. His expression suddenly darkens as he begins to question Melissa's true devotion to their daughter. Clenching a cheap green bracelet in his fist, he vows to protect his beloved child from further neglect. Walking away, he fumes over how the Wolf Clan could dare mistreat his precious daughter for 7 years. In his memory, the innocent young princess desperately insists she was never harmed. He realizes with heartbreak that she was only trying to protect her cruel captors. He admits to himself that his gentle reassurance to Chloe was only temporary. Gazing at a sleeping child, the powerful Duke quietly vows to never forgive her abusers. Pure fury consumes him as he promises absolute retribution against those who dared lay a hand on her. An ominous purple crest glows in the dark, sealing his promise of swift vengeance. The scene shifts abruptly to the majestic and snowy estate of the rival Wolf Clan. Soft, sorrowful weeping echoes from within a beautifully decorated blue bedchamber. A tearful silver-haired woman gently cradles a white messenger bird that has just arrived. She gasps in surprise, spotting a glowing blue gemstone ring attached to the bird's leg. Unfolding the secret letter, her eyes widen in sheer, breathless shock at the message inside. A brilliant smile breaks through her tears as she clutches the letter tightly to her chest. With newfound determination, the loving mother prepares to embark on a daring rescue mission. Glaring with fierce, glowing gold eyes, she promises to make Lucian Leander pay for his sins. Meanwhile, a tense new chapter begins back at the Grand Palace as a critical meeting is called. The high nobles gather around the long marble table to discuss the official heir of the Lion family. With a calm but imposing presence, the Duke announces his intention to appoint a new successor. Chloe peeks over the table in utter shock, desperately trying to remember if this happened in the novel. Ian maintains a firm, unwavering gaze as he prepares to drop a massive bombshell on the court. A wave of absolute, wide-eyed bewilderment leaves the entire room completely frozen in shock. Flustered and blushing, Chloe frantically points to herself, unable to believe her sudden nomination. A startled noble objects to the decision while Chloe desperately tries to decline the inheritance. A heavy, suffocating silence descends upon the room, crushing all further objections. Ian's terrifying lion aura flares to life, daring anyone to oppose his absolute decree. Terrified by his overwhelming power, the objectors instantly retract their claims and enthusiastically agree. Breaking the tense silence, a hand is respectfully raised to address the powerful Duke. Marquis Connor Meyer steps forward to bring up a highly sensitive political matter. He reminds the Duke to consult his fiancée, Lady Joanna of the Serpent family first. The noble insists they must hear the opinion of House Demos before making a final decision. Ian sighs in deep frustration, recalling the bothersome legal traps of his forced engagement. A massive glowing purple serpent looms, illustrating the cunning trap of their political contract. Chloe's eyes widen as she recognizes Joanna as the dangerous sister of the original novel's Melody. She recalls that the unfair alliance was a trap forced upon the Lion family by greedy rivals. She remembers how the absolute power of the dragons pressured her family into political submission. Due to these heavy pressures, Ian was forced to take his older brother's place as head. Trapped in a marriage he never wanted, Ian's sullen face reveals his deep resentment. Chloe resolves to use her knowledge of the novel's timeline to free her uncle from this cruel fate. She quickly begins to brainstorm a clever solution using the original story's hidden secrets. Interrupting her thoughts, Ian calls out to Chloe, asking for her immediate help with the task. Chloe's brilliant green eyes widen in pure, startled surprise at his sudden request. Clenching her tiny fists, the clever princess eagerly prepares to execute her next move. Vowing to solve her family's political crisis, the brave young princess enthusiastically offers her full assistance. Her father, the blonde Duke Ian, casually dismisses her and gently tells her to go play outside. Shocked and deeply offended, Chloe fumes over being treated like a helpless little child. Refusing to be sidelined, she resolves to prove her exceptional worth to her family. Suddenly, the delightful mention of sweet hot cocoa and marshmallows instantly derails her serious thoughts. Distracted by the treats, she happily agrees to go play in the grand greenhouse. Deciding to indulge in sweets first, she plans to brainstorm her survival strategy later. As Chloe heads down the stairs, her uncle cheerfully bids her a warm farewell. Recognizing the departing figure, Chloe remembers his critical role in the original novel's political disputes. She realizes the man is Count Connor Myers, a key player in the court. Filled with immense gratitude, Chloe silently thanks him for inadvertently saving her from the meeting. The scene shifts to the stunning glass dome of the Imperial Greenhouse. Accompanied by her personal maid, Chloe walks along the stone path of the estate. Feeling a bit nervous, Chloe asks if it is truly all right for her to enter. The maid reassures the young princess as they step into the magnificent light-filled garden. A lush bed of beautiful blooming white flowers stands before them in full glory. Chloe stares in absolute wonder at the breathtaking floral display. Spotting the lisianthus flowers, she fondly remembers how much her mother loved them. She recalls a sweet memory of her parents proudly praising her. Shaken off the painful nostalgia, Chloe reminds herself to stay calm and focused. Clenching her fists, she builds up her courage for the challenges ahead. She reminds herself that her beloved mother and uncle will arrive to rescue her soon. Meanwhile, the busy palace maids prepare a stunning yellow gown in the dressing room. Maid politely bows, announcing that she will open the double doors immediately. The young princess stands ready, wearing her elegant new yellow dress. Duke Ian and his brother open the massive doors, eager to see the princess. Chloe steps forward, looking incredibly precious in her beautiful, ruffled yellow gown. The young girl looks up with wide, innocent green eyes. Shimmering sparkles surround her as she stands before the two men. Completely captivated by her pure cuteness, both men stare at her in breathless admiration. The uncle walks over with a blush, comparing her to a cute, round white rabbit. Chloe panics internally, worried they might discover she is actually a rabbit beaskin. Ian insists his daughter is a brave lion, while his brother notes lions can be cute too. Relieved that her identity remains safe, Chloe takes a deep breath to calm her racing heart. Her father gazes down at her with immense warmth and quiet affection. Chloe beams with a radiant, joyful smile that melts everyone's hearts. Suddenly, a wave of awkward silence falls over the grand hallway. Chloe realizes her outstretched hand is a habit from holding hands with her adoptive family. Her small, delicate hand remains suspended in the air. Gently and reassuringly, her father reaches out to close the distance. Chloe looks up in complete surprise as his large hand wraps around hers. Blushing slightly, Ian softly asks if they should walk together. With a bright face, Chloe eagerly agrees to walk by his side. Walking between her father and her uncle, Chloe feels comforted by their big, warm hands. Twin ponytails bounce with every step as they walk down the hall. Looking forward with newfound hope, a gentle warmth fills her heart. Feeling the deep connection, Chloe realizes she has finally found a real family. The scene shifts as the adorable journey of the young princess continues. As peace returns, a quiet calm settles over the imperial grounds. High above, the magnificent palace stands proud under a brilliant, endless sky. Stepping directly into the lion's den, the young princess prepares to face a terrifying political nightmare as her father asks about their dangerous rivals. Reassuring his beloved niece, the blonde duke gently tightens his grip to offer silent comfort. Chloe's heart races in pure panic as she wonders if her family will uncover her deepest secret. Dark memories of the original novel resurface, highlighting the notorious and sinister Deimos clan of Taipan. Rumors paint the Serpent family as ruthless monsters who sacrifice even their own children to drain life force. The blonde duke breaks the silence, addressing his brother as they reach the meeting destination. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, the clever princess realizes her family deeply fears the dangerous snake clave. The narrative shifts to focus on the future male lead of this twisted tale. Golden memories reveal a heartbreaking conversation about parents who only cared about their golden child. The tragic backdrop of the original novel's protagonist begins to unravel. Dark devotion pushes the male lead's family to make the ultimate sacrifice. Sparkles of light hint at the magical forces binding these two prominent houses together. A bloody tragedy looms over the male lead, who harbored a secret, devastating love for his family. A dark, endless cycle of bloody revenge threatens to consume the rival wolf family. Chloe desperately hopes to prevent the same tragic misunderstandings that tore their houses apart. Stepping up to the grand double doors, the princess prepares for a historic confrontation. An ominous chill freezes Chloe in her tracks as she crosses the threshold. Footsteps echo through the room as an imposing figure welcomes the Grand Lion leaders. Standing tall in a lavish purple coat, the cunning Dylan Demos greets them with a chilling smile. The Snake Lord's piercing gaze locks onto Chloe, questioning her sudden presence. As the tension reaches a boiling point, the blonde duke steps in to shield his daughter. A subtle political jab is thrown, questioning the mysterious absence of the duke's frail fiancé. Powerful auras clash in a silent war of dominance as the two leaders exchange thinly veiled threats. Watching the scary display, Chloe realizes the deep-seated rivalry is even worse than she feared. Suddenly, a polite young boy steps forward from the shadows to introduce himself. Striking dark hair and bright blue eyes immediately identify the mysterious young heir. The young boy looks up, radiating a quiet and melancholy charm. The system interface confirms his identity as Sion Demos, the original novel's central protagonist. With slow, deliberate steps, the young boy approaches the Lion Princess. Bowing with flawless noble etiquette, he offers a gentle greeting to his guests. Sion officially introduces himself, carrying the heavy weight of his family's dark legacy. Chloe is instantly taken aback, sensing an unsettling difference from the protagonist she read about. Her heart sinks as she stares into his strikingly empty, soul-dead eyes. Noticing her sudden distress, her caring father immediately bends down to check on her. Underneath his stern gaze, Chloe detects a trace of fatherly worry for her safety. The Snake Lord suggests sending the children to the garden under heavy guard to discuss business. A mysterious, elegant woman in black stands silently behind the smiling serpent patriarch. With a cold command, the mother orders Sion to accompany the young princess outside. Chloe shivers as she notices Dylan's polite smile completely vanish into a dark scowl. Reassuring his beloved daughter, the blonde duke gently encourages her to go play. Eager to escape the suffocating tension, the energetic princess skips down the grand hole. The scene shifts to a breathtaking courtyard adorned with elegant, blooming white flower arches. The young snake heir remains silent, his vacant gaze fixed on the grab. Chloe resolves to uncover the dark secret behind the young boy's empty eyes. Sitting quietly on a stone bench, the lonely boy buries himself in a book. Determined to break the ice, Chloe cheerfully runs up and introduces herself. She tries to tempt him with mentions of delicious strawberry cake, but receives no response. Talk about a tough crowd. Scratching her head, the princess wonders why her legendary charm is failing so completely. Taking a deep breath, she tries a completely different approach to grab his attention. The young heir finally looks up with a blush, marking Chloe's first major victory. As a dark, ancient threat slithers in the shadows, a hidden destiny begins to unfold. Amidst a quiet field of blooming blue flowers, the dark-haired boy rests in isolation. Hoping to win him over, the white-haired princess confidently approaches the lonely boy. He bluntly questions her persistence, cutting through her cheerful demeanor with cold indifference. She frantically defends her friendly intentions, only to be dismissed as merely amusing. He suddenly accuses her of feigning kindness to gain favor with the duke. A harsh accusation leaves the young princess completely stunned and deeply confused. He reveals he witnessed her earlier attempts to please the duke. A heavy, painful realization about her longing for affection hangs over them. He delivers a final, crushing blow, calling her desperate search for love pathetic. Enraged by his cruel words, the princess fiercely shoves him backward. She furiously demands he stop speaking so recklessly about things he cannot understand. The tense atmosphere crackles with residual anger following her sudden outburst. The young heir sits dazed on the pavement, shocked by her physical retaliation. Back in her chambers, Chloe wallows in regret for losing her temper with him. Regret quickly turns to anger as she decides he is entirely at fault. A sudden knock at her bedroom door interrupts her furious inner monologue. Her blonde uncle bursts in, explaining that his business meeting ran incredibly long. Flustered by his sudden arrival, she nervously tries to pretend everything is perfectly fine. He gently asks if she is upset because her new friend had to leave. Shifting the tone, he reaches out to guide her toward a different matter. The bright and charming Smiley prepares to reveal a special surprise. He leads her through the dark, encouraging her to keep her eyes closed. Opening her eyes, she gasps in awe at the glowing golden palace terrace. She marvels at the golden twilight, comparing the breathtaking scenery to a sparkling jewel. He pats her head, revealing this scenic overlook is a secret family sanctuary. His gentle gaze reflects a deep, quiet affection for his young niece. He warmly welcomes her to the household, cementing her place in the family. Overwhelmed by his genuine kindness, the young princess is deeply touched. Dark memories of the novel's original timeline where he became a killer flash by. She recalls how she once feared him and actively kept her distance. Knowing his true kindness now, a heavy wave of guilt washes over her. A sudden frantic shout from afar breaks their quiet family moment. A panicked servant arrives, calling out that a mountain of paperwork requires immediate attention. Chloe immediately suspects her uncle skipped out on his royal duties just for her. He frantically defends his break, insisting that even a busy leader deserves rest. Observing his flustered excuse, she realizes this is a side of him she never expected. Embarrassed, he quickly suggests they table the discussion for a later time. He reiterates his warm welcome, ensuring she knows she belongs in their family. She realizes she was the one blinded by prejudices from her knowledge of the novel. Determined to prove herself, she takes up a wooden training sword with fierce resolve. She stabs the training weapon forward, putting her entire body into the practice. Frustrated by her lack of progress, she despairs over her missing combat talent. She notes that she has spent all her free time trying to uncover her special ability. She tries various magic attacks on a plush toy only to tumble over repeatedly. Realizing she has failed at everything, the young princess bursts into tears. She looks down at her hands, feeling utterly useless and completely dejected. Sudden request to enter her room interrupts her gloomy thoughts. She scrambles in a panic to hide her training sword and stuffed animal. Her father opens a door, finding her looking incredibly flustered and suspicious. An unexpected interrogation shatters the quiet peace as Lucian confronts the princess about her secret watchtower visit with Ian. Chloe panics, desperately hoping her secret alliance with her uncle remains completely safe. Trying to ease her tension, Lucian calmly sits beside her on the grand sofa. He promises to take her somewhere even better next time, offering a sweet distraction to calm her nerves. Smiling warmly, Lucian hands her a cup of sweet cocoa to soothe her anxiety. Clutching the warm cup, Chloe looks up with absolute delight in her sparkling eyes. The sweet moment brings a bright smile to the young princess's face as they sit together in comfort. Suddenly, the entire room plunges into pitch blackness as the magical energy unexpectedly cuts out. Panicked guards burst through the doors, frantically checking on the princess's safety. Lucian commandingly orders them to search the castle, sensing a lethal threat lurking nearby. His gaze turns ice cold as he prepares to hunt down the mysterious intruder himself. The guards immediately salute and rush out to secure the perimeter. Lucian warns Chloe that he must step out to investigate the disturbance. He strictly orders her to stay put and wait for a safe return. Slipping out of the grand chamber, he closes the doors behind him, leaving her in safety. Navigating the dark, quiet corridors, Lucian instantly detects a stealthy presence near the window. In a shower of shattered glass, a masked assassin dramatically crashes through the window to strike. Lucian barely flinches, calmly sensing the incoming blade with dangerous precision. He effortlessly parries the lethal blow, immediately recognizing the attacker's formidable wolf-style swordsmanship. Determined to keep Chloe safe, Lucian resolves to lure the deadly threat outside. Knowing a dangerous clash is inevitable, he readies his weapon for a high-stakes duel. Suddenly, a shockingly familiar voice rings out, freezing Lucian completely in his tracks. I understand you want me to read that text back quickly. However, I cannot generate audio with varying speeds. I can, though, repeat it at a standard pace if that works for you. Would you like me to do that? The intruder issues a chilling personal threat to end his life right then and there. Pulling back the hood, the assassin is revealed to be Melissa, seeking justice for past betrayal. Lucian stands entirely dumbfounded, staring at the woman he never expected to see. Drawn by the loud commotion, Chloe's voice echoes from behind the heavy wooden doors. Chloe steps out into the hallway, catching both warriors completely off guard. Melissa drops her weapon in absolute shock as she locks eyes with the little girl. Rushing forward, Melissa desperately gathers Chloe into a fierce protective hug, checking for injuries. Staring wide-eyed, Chloe is stunned to suddenly recognize her mother's warm embrace. Overcome with raw emotion, Melissa weeps as she cradles her beloved daughter tightly. Refusing to let her guard down, Lucian draws his glowing sword to challenge her intentions. Pointing his blade directly at Melissa, he demands to know if she intends to take Chloe away. Lucian fiercely claims Chloe as his daughter, sparking Melissa's intense fury. Turning back in rage, Melissa bitterly disputes his right to claim fatherhood over the girl. Lucian defends his duty to protect her, but Melissa furiously accuses him of abandoning them first. She rages at his excuses, letting years of built-up resentment boil over. Terrified by the explosive screaming match, the little princess bursts into quiet tears. Melissa panics at her tears, while Lucian steps in to gently pacify the child. Lucian scoops Chloe up, offering a safe, reassuring embrace to calm her weeping. As Chloe asks about their fighting, Lucian gently dismisses it as a simple misunderstanding between old friends. Melissa watches in absolute disbelief, shocked by how naturally Lucian comforts her daughter. A wave of guilt washes over Melissa as she realizes her blind obsession with saving Chloe ignored the child's actual feelings. She deeply regrets letting her own anger overshadow what her daughter truly needed. Staring at her hands, she hates herself for engaging in a reckless sword fight right in front of her child. Dropping to her knees, Melissa offers a heartfelt, tearful apology for scaring her. Eager to make amends, she promises to grant Chloe absolutely anything her heart desires. Smiling brightly, Chloe happily rubs her cheek against her mother's face in pure forgiveness. Lucian sweats in utter confusion, recalling reports that Chloe was supposedly terrified of Melissa. Looking up with sparkling, hopeful eyes, the clever princess demands a final promise that they will never fight again. Lucian and Melissa are left completely stunned as Chloe's innocent words drop a total bombshell. Terrified that they will fight again because of her, Chloe bursts into tears as they desperately try to reassure her. Chloe sniffles and requests they hold hands tightly to prove they have truly made up. A magical, sparkling pink aura fills the room as she issues her adorable ultimatum. The young princess looks up with massive, glistening green eyes that make refusal completely impossible. She reiterates her demand for them to lock hands and seal their peace agreement. Lucian and Melissa freeze in absolute horror, realizing they have been cornered by a toddler. Chloe persists with her innocent logic, pushing them closer to the edge of embarrassment. She continues to look up with pure, sparkling innocence to force their compliance. They sweat profusely as she bluntly asks if they are ready to hold hands now. Leaving they are lying to her, Chloe looks deeply hurt, forcing a flustered Lucian to scramble for a solution. In a desperate bid to soothe her tears, they finally reach out and grab each other's hands. Melissa holds Lucian's hand tightly with a forced smile, declaring to Chloe that they have officially reconciled. Lucian is left completely flustered and blushing, staring down at his held hand in silent shock. Chloe throws her arms around both of them, celebrating their successful makeup session with pure joy. She secretly gloats over how easily she got them to yield to her wishes. A sudden, brilliant realization strikes the young princess regarding her hidden potential. She realizes her true magical ability is invoking deep pity and affection in everyone around her. Hugging her awkward parents, she accepts that while their relationship is complicated, she can handle them. She remains determined to bridge the gap between them, regardless of how uncomfortable they feel. With burning resolve in her glistening green eyes, she vows to prevent the original story's tragedy. The scene shifts back to the grand corridor, where a heavy silence settles over the adults. Accompanied by his fierce lion spirit, Lucian offers to overlook the break-in if Chloe stays with him. Backed by a roaring wolf spirit, Melissa fiercely rejects his terms, declaring that no one will steal her daughter. She questions his concern for Chloe's happiness, prompting a cold, mocking reaction from the arrogant lord. Lucian scoffs at her maternal care, pointing out the cheap and crude mana stone she gave their daughter. Shamed by his accurate accusation, Melissa's expression falls as she silently reflects on her shortcomings. Standing smugly with crossed arms, Lucian suggests that the Leander family is far better suited to raise her. Enraged by his condescending tone, Melissa's silver-haired companion slams the table and demands a duel to settle the dispute. Suddenly, a cheerful knock on the door shatters the incredibly tense, warlike atmosphere. Chloe's polite request to enter echoes into the silent, surprised room. All four adults instantly freeze in shock, completely caught off guard by her arrival. Chloe barges right into the meeting, ignoring her panicked butler who desperately tries to hold her back. Her silver-haired Uncle Ian gasps in absolute shock as he locks eyes with her. Spotting her beloved uncle, Chloe's eyes light up with pure, unadulterated happiness. She leaps through the air and throws herself into his arms with a joyful shout. Silver-haired uncle panics and frantically checks her over to ensure she has not been harmed. Chloe gets dizzy from his aggressive spinning, cutely begging him to put her down. Lucian and the blonde duke watch in complete disbelief, stunned by how close they are. He sheds dramatic, comical tears of relief as Chloe gently pats his face to comfort him. A brief pause allows the tension to settle before the next emotional play begins. Melissa observes the room, noting that the hostile pre-war atmosphere is still incredibly thick. Sensing the conflict, Chloe runs forward, determined to deploy her pity-inducing powers once more. She acts incredibly fragile, asking if she will only be in their way if she stays with them. The blonde duke immediately crumbles to her cuteness, warmly inviting her to sit wherever she wants. Chloe happily runs to her seat, internally celebrating the devastating success of her adorable manipulation. Her silver-haired Uncle Ian tries to guide her away, but she playfully teases his heavy dark circles instead. He gently pats her head as she and her mother share a warm, loving moment together. The blonde duke looks extremely awkward, realizing their warm bond makes his side look like the villain's. The ultimate custody battle continues as the fate of the young princess hangs in the balance. Lucian fiercely accuses Chloe's maternal family of exploiting her to extort precious mana stones. Melissa is utterly bewildered, vehemently denying ever receiving any stones from his family. Ian steps in, counter-accusing Lucian's side of trade sabotage and blocking sales. The shocking counter-accusations leave Lucian and his companion completely stunned and defensive. Ian expresses absolute disgust at their greed, while Lucian furiously rejects the claims. The emotional blonde youth reveals his brother's grueling labor to meet the massive quota. Oppressive shadows loom as the tragic truth of the past begins to unravel. In the memory, the overworked brother relentlessly pushes himself despite desperate warnings of collapse. He harbored a tragic, desperate hope of finally reuniting with his beloved Chloe. Back in the present, the youth's fist clenches in agonizing confusion over the missing stones. He explodes in raw frustration, demanding to know where the fortune vanished. Little Princess Chloe realizes a dark, hidden conspiracy is playing out behind the scenes. Outside the chamber doors, a chaotic shouting match erupts between rival guards. The explosive noise outside abruptly cuts through the high-stakes negotiations within the room. Detecting the escalating trouble, the clever princess prepares to intervene once again. The grand chamber doors swing open, signaling a tense halt to the dispute. Lucian steps into the corridor, instantly confronting his guards for their unprofessional behavior. The embarrassed knights scramble to explain the altercation to their commanding lord. Chloe steps out, her bright green eyes wide with sudden surprise. Breaking into a joyful sprint, she rushes to defend her loved ones. Chloe eagerly throws her arms around Brooks, who tearfully rejoices at her safety. The devoted knight warmly asks if she has been well during her stay.
She cheerfully boasts of her comfortable treatment, oblivious to Lucian's irritation.
Her innocent query about the fight causes the rival knight to freeze in panic. The little princess sweetly approaches Sir Arthur, recognizing his duty as her protector. Arthur is deeply moved and ashamed of his recklessness before her pure kindness. Filled with remorse, the loyal knight submissively offers to accept any punishment. With boundless empathy, she gently touches his arm and forgives his actions completely. Her brilliant, angelic smile instantly melts the remaining hostility in the hallway. The hardened warriors blush deeply, completely disarmed by her pure, compassionate heart. The guards weep with adoration while Chloe secretly gloats over her perfect manipulation. Observing the touching scene, a strange detail suddenly catches the Duke's attention. Lucian notes the suspicious absence of magical enhancements on the elite knight's gear. A chilling realization begins to dawn on the deeply unsettled Bobo. Deep affection from her family remains Chloe's guiding light amidst the political darkness. The young princess remains fiercely determined to unearth the truth of this conspiracy. A playful witch waves guiding us deeper into the unraveling royal mystery. A heavy, silent tension settles over the grand palace corridors once more. Lucian paces thoughtfully, a storm of suspicion brewing behind his cold gaze. His eyes focus intently on the plain, ordinary hilt of the guard's sword. Shocking visual proof of missing mana stones leaves the Duke entirely dumbfounded. He reasons that an elite unit invading for war would never carry ordinary weapons. He realizes how Zaras was telling the absolute truth about the missing tributes. Resolving to uncover the hidden thief, Lucian urgently calls for his trusted butler. Loyal butler Mason steps forward, ready to receive his master's commands. Lucian orders an immediate, thorough investigation into the original request letters from Eris. Mason remains silent, absorbing the massive gravity of the secret task. The loyal aide accepts the confidential mission, vanishing into the shadows to investigate. Night falls over the castle as a dangerous game of political deception unfolds. Suddenly, a guard bursts in with urgent news of a brand new threat. The peace of the Empire is shattered in an instant as Mason delivers a chilling report of a hidden conspiracy directly to Duke Lucian.
In a tense flashback, Mason recalls cornering a suspicious servant sneaking down a strange corridor.
Before he can extract any answers, the rogue butler suddenly launches a desperate, violent attack. Cornered and desperate to protect his secrets, the assassin takes his own life on the spot. Back in the present, Lucian and his brother recoil in absolute shock at this grim turn of events. Mason places the heavy stack of investigative documents onto the wooden desk. Lucian's brother looks on as the Duke carefully reviews the files of suspected spies. The situation grows even more dire as Mason reveals that all implicated servants have already killed themselves. Mason explains that they have secured the evidence inside the castle's most highly protected room. Lucian studies the list of compromised staff, realizing that many more hidden spies still lurk in the shadows. A dark, ominous command is issued to hunt down and eliminate every remaining threat by any means necessary. With cold, piercing green eyes, the Duke confirms his absolute resolve to purge the traitors. Sensing his brother's dark mood, the younger blonde sibling calls out to him in deep concern. He voices his sudden suspicion regarding the accuracy of the spy reports they receive from Ian. Lucian looks away, admitting that their sources might indeed be deeply compromised. The blonde youth reflects on the chilling possibility that their recruited allies have been lying to them all along. This high-stakes battle of wits intensifies as the true motives of both warring houses begin to blur. Meanwhile, little Princess Chloe throws open her nursery doors, cheerfully calling out for her mother and uncle. She bounces into her incredibly bright and lavishly decorated bedroom with pure joy. Her mother Melissa and Uncle Ian step inside, completely stunned by the sheer luxury of Chloe's quarters. Still highly suspicious, Melissa and Ian whisper about finding any visual proof of child abuse to justify taking Chloe away. Ian pauses mid-stride, his hand hovering as he spots something highly suspicious on the table. He furiously holds up a plush teddy bear, assuming it's a cheap and insulting toy, only for Chloe to explain it was a gift. Turning her attention elsewhere, Melissa notices a heavy wooden chest and prepares to examine its contents. She opens the lid to reveal an assortment of high-quality baby clothes, tiny shoes, and pristine pacifiers. Melissa is left speechless, realizing the room was prepared with incredible warmth and meticulous care. A sudden polite knock at the heavy double doors shatters her train of thought. Chloe recognizes the voice of their loyal knight, Brooks, waiting outside. Melissa cracks open the door, urgently asking Brooks if his search of the estate was successful. Knight nervously reports that he thoroughly checked all the locations mentioned by their spies. The shocking truth is laid bare. There is no secret laboratory or abused test subjects anywhere on the grounds. Stunned to her very core, Melissa's hand freezes against the ornate golden doorframe. She reels from the revelation, struggling to process that their mortal enemies have treated her daughter like royalty. Brooks adds that even the heavily guarded Mana Stone Tower holds absolutely no evidence of cruelty or exploitation. Clutching her head in utter despair, Melissa realizes she has spent years believing in a fabricated lie. From across the room, Chloe watches her mother with a knowing, gentle expression. The clever little princess realizes that the massive misunderstandings between their families are finally starting to crumble. Outside, the grand imperial palace basks in the warm sunlight as a new day of negotiations begins. Chloe runs down the corridor, her heart filled with a brilliant new plan to unite them all. She grabs the hands of two bewildered palace guards and aggressively drags them along. The two elite knights panic, completely powerless against the absolute cuteness of the little girl. Chloe confidently reassures them that they will not regret following her to the meeting room. She looks back with a sparkling smile, her sheer charisma easily bending the hardened warriors to her will. A beautiful flurry of pink roses symbolizes the devastating power of her cute manipulation. Blushing guards find themselves hilariously dragged down the hallway like helpless toddlers. They quickly approach the massive double doors of the main negotiation chamber. Chloe forcefully kicks the doors wide open, catching everyone inside completely off guard. Lucian and Melissa freeze in shock at her sudden and noisy intrusion. Standing proudly before the adults, Chloe commands their full attention for a major announcement. The bold princess climbs onto a nearby chair, ready to deliver a speech that will change the empire's fate forever. Standing proudly before the powerful leaders, the clever princess boldly begins her historic announcement to resolve the conflict. She dramatically presents her carefully drafted contract, leaving the adults completely stunned by her initiative. Melissa and Lucian stare in absolute disbelief, struggling to process the little girl's unexpected proposal. Chloe explains that the mutual affection of both families inspired her to create a peaceful compromise. She unveils her grand peace treaty, hoping to end the long-standing war once and for all. The first clause ensures that Heir's family's crucial Mana Stone trading remains entirely unbothered. The second clause proposes that Chloe will split her time equally between both families every 6 months. She includes a third rule allowing regular visits and granting her final custody choice upon reaching adulthood. This final condition will empower the young princess to permanently choose her true home herself. Confident in her brilliant strategy, Chloe secretly celebrates her plan to effortlessly dissolve all family tension. However, the sudden, heavy silence in the room causes her triumphant smile to falter. The powerful nobles of both factions exchange stunned, somber glances, completely frozen by her words. The suffocating atmosphere grows increasingly tense as no one dares to break the awkward silence. Worry begins to wash over Chloe, fearing her well-intentioned peace treaty has completely backfired. With heartbreaking sincerity, the gentle girl admits she simply loves both families and wishes for peace. Her pure, innocent desire to end the conflict deeply touches the hearts of the hardened leaders. Clenching her fist, Melissa is struck by painful remorse for forcing her daughter to walk on eggshells. Filled with profound sorrow, the loving mother looks at her daughter with a breaking heart. Melissa tenderly reaches out, desperate to soothe her daughter's hidden anxieties and burdens. Her mother gently suggests discussing the matter later, but Chloe firmly insists on an immediate answer. The young princess pleads with him to stop fighting, her pure soul shining through the darkness. Deeply moved, Lucian and his brother look down as the weight of her words sinks in. Heavy silence stretches as the Duke prepares to deliver his final fateful decision. In a stunning twist, Lucian resolves to accept Chloe's terms, surprising everyone in the room. Chloe gasps in sheer disbelief, her green eyes wide with sudden, overwhelming joy. The younger blonde brother protests, urging the Duke to reconsider such a hasty agreement. Ignoring the protests, Lucian warmly asks the little princess to hand him the document. Bursting with excitement, Chloe eagerly presents her handmade treaty to the powerful Duke. The Duke takes up his pen, proposing to add one essential condition to the contract. He explains that this addition is necessary to put his own lingering worries to rest. Lucian then passes the document to Melissa, inviting the heiress family to add their terms. Seizing the moment, the determined mother claims a right to secure their own vital conditions. Melissa announces that the Argus faction will also demand their own strict guarantees. Her brother Ian takes up the pen, eager to write down their final protective terms. Melissa watches with a triumphant, elegant smile, confident in their newly secured family future. A beautiful, clear day marks a major turning point as the long-awaited treaty is finalized. Hands gently part outside the palace gate, signaling a bittersweet moment of temporary departure. Her silver-haired Uncle Ian affectionately reminds her to call him immediately if she is ever unhappy. He kneels to gently embrace Chloe, admitting how quiet and empty the castle will feel without her. Smiling softly, the little girl turns her attention back to her blonde protectors waiting nearby. She hesitantly asks Lucian if it would be all right to invite her uncle over for occasional visits. Twiddling her fingers nervously, she sweetly promises to share all her meals with him if allowed.
Completely disarmed by her overwhelming cuteness, Lucian smiles warmly and grants her innocent request.
He playfully insists that Chloe must also invite them over whenever she stays in Arba's territory. Overjoyed by this sudden harmony, the little princess beams amidst a flurry of bright yellow flowers. With a cheerful farewell, Chloe bids a safe and happy journey home to her beloved uncle. A magnificent royal carriage begins to depart, carrying her uncle back to his own lands. Standing in the courtyard, the young girl waves goodbye to her family with a hopeful heart. Lucian gently takes her tiny hand, guiding her back toward the safety of the grand estate. He squeezes her hand reassuringly, cementing their unbreakable bond as they step toward a peaceful future together. Glaring intensely, the blonde-haired Duke resolves to bide his time for now. Holding her daughter's hand, Melissa smiles warmly, ready to secure their future. The room holds its breath as Melissa prepares to deliver her conditions. She demands that Arrayas escorts must protect Chloe while staying in Leander territory. The younger blonde sibling smiles smugly, questioning if that is their only demand. Melissa shocks the room by declaring that she will personally be one of those escorts. With a proud, elegant smile, the white-haired mother stands firm in her power play. Hand in hand, the family walks together, taking their first steps toward an uneasy pace. Although Chloe hopes they will get along, her parents' bitter rivalry immediately reignites. The optimistic princess remains determined to help them clear up their massive misunderstandings. Her grand illusions of family peace instantly shatter as another heated argument erupts. The Duke offers a protective magical bracelet, but Melissa coldly rejects his gift. As the Duke insists on her safety, Melissa mockingly dismisses his concern. Watching them bicker endlessly over a simple accessory, Chloe despairs over her parents' behavior. Gritting his teeth, the bland-haired Duke grows visibly frustrated with her constant defiance. Realizing her father is reaching his boiling point, Chloe panics at the rising tension. Melissa's gaze suddenly narrows as she notices her daughter acting highly suspicious. Stealthily, a tiny hand reaches out to snatch the disputed magical bracelet. The little princess is caught red-handed, freezing under her mother's sudden gaze. To her dismay, the massive magical bracelet slips right off her tiny wrist. Quick-witted, Chloe slides the magical ornament onto her mother's wrist instead. Caught completely off guard, Melissa hesitates as her cold resolve begins to melt. While her mother stammers a weak excuse, Chloe secretly celebrates her successful plan. Realizing she needs a final blow, the clever princess prepares her ultimate weapon. She unleashes a barrage of pure, devastating cuteness that no adult can resist. Overwhelmed by her daughter's absolute adorableness, Melissa's cold defenses completely crumble. Embracing her mother warmly, the little princess rejoices as her cute manipulation succeeds. Melissa demands similar protective bracelets for their knights, triggering the Duke's silent jealousy. The Duke envisions the handsome knight Brooks laughing with his family, fueling his envy. A brief, deceptively peaceful moment of floral tranquility settles over the estate. Infuriated by another man protecting his family, the Duke clenches his fist. Overcome with petty jealousy, the Duke bitterly agrees to craft identical protective bracelets. He storms out of the room, slamming the heavy double doors shut. Melissa watches him leave, completely bewildered by his sudden and explosive emotional outburst. Seeing her father's hilarious overreaction, the clever princess can barely hide her joy. However, she quickly composes herself, realizing there are still major hurdles to overcome. Back in the study, a secret inquiry begins regarding Melissa's true treatment of Chloe. The blonde brothers interrogate their maid, demanding an honest report on the mother-daughter dynamic. The maid describes a heartwarming bond, completely shattering the dark rumors of abuse. Realizing their informants lied, the Duke grows increasingly suspicious of their original reports. The chilling truth is confirmed. Their trusted allies have intentionally fed them massive lies. He deduces that the treacherous spies are likely connected to the stolen Mana Stone. To their immense frustration, they learn that every single traitor has already committed suicide. Despite the setback, the Duke vows to launch a relentless investigation into their families. A highly controversial remarriage application is suddenly placed on the Duke's desk. The younger blonde brother looks on in sheer disbelief as the Duke confirms his decision. To raise Chloe as his official heir, the Duke is willing to cross any line. Scene transitions to a magnificent glass greenhouse bathed in bright sunlight. Inside, a breathtaking floral paradise awaits the mother and daughter as their journey continues. Dressed in lovely matching frocks, Melissa and Chloe stare in awe at the spectacular oasis. In a desperate bid to mend a broken family, a little princess launches her most daring scheme yet by leading her mother into a blooming sanctuary. A gentle hand reaches out to touch the pristine blossoms, momentarily soothing the heavy tension. Melissa quietly acknowledges the beautiful gesture, her frosty defenses beginning to waver. Standing among the vibrant white flowers, the white-haired mother gazes down with a complex mix of guilt and affection. Suddenly, the blonde-haired Duke appears amidst a sea of golden roses, his sharp gaze softening instantly. Melissa freezes in surprise as she realizes they are no longer alone in the quiet garden. Caught completely off guard, the little princess gasps as her father unexpectedly joins them. Holding an official document, the Duke casually greets them during their peaceful greenhouse stroll. Eager to ease the tension, the clever girl quickly explains her sweet mission to show her mother the flowers. As the two powerful rivals lock eyes, an icy silence immediately threatens to ruin the moment. Melissa turns away coldly, refusing to give the arrogant Duke the satisfaction of a response. Recognizing the golden opportunity, Chloe secretly resolves to push forward with her ultimate family reconciliation project. With a bright smile, the young princess boldly proposes they all enjoy a wonderful outdoor picnic together.
Desperate to escape the awkward encounter, Melissa quickly claims she is feeling unwell to head back inside. Panicking that her plan is falling apart, Chloe freezes, but the Duke unexpectedly volunteers to leave instead. Reassuring his daughter, the Duke gently pats her head and promises to join them next time. Before departing, he presents Melissa with a formal summons to the crucial upcoming Continental Assembly. Melissa reluctantly takes the document, realizing this summit will decide their daughter's permanent custody. The official document outlines the strict conditions required for Melissa to remain in the territory with Chloe. He smoothly explains that this agreement will also allow their family allies to visit much more comfortably. Melissa looks at him with deep suspicion, searching his calm face for any hidden traps. Her knuckles turn white as she weighs the immense pressure of protecting her family's sovereign lands. Urged to make the right choice for the sake of the family, she lets out a heavy, defeated sigh. With sudden resolve, she snatches the document to finalize the fateful agreement. Chloe's green eyes sparkle with excitement as she realizes this assembly is her perfect chance to unite them. However, she faces a major obstacle, knowing her parents still bicker constantly behind closed doors. Melissa looks startled as her daughter's sudden probing questions catch her completely off guard. To pull off the ultimate deception, Melissa is forced to take the initiative and link arms with her rival. Pasting on a fake smile, she whispers a sharp warning to the blushing Duke to play along for their daughter's sake. Chloe secretly celebrates, thrilled that her adorable manipulation has successfully forced them into a temporary truce. Skipping with joy, the clever princess requests a special favor to celebrate becoming a family again. The scene shifts to a grand fitting room filled with luxurious, custom-tailored designer gowns. Surrounded by such unbelievable luxury, Chloe feels like she must have saved the world in her past life. Dressed in an exquisite green gown, Melissa blushes beautifully as she reveals her stunning new look. The loyal estate maids instantly erupt in dramatic tears of pure joy at their lady's sheer adorableness. Chloe playfully tries to downplay their overwhelming compliments, hiding her own growing embarrassment. Twirling in her lovely matching green dress, the little princess looks like a literal angel come to life. The heavy doors creak open as the moment of truth finally arrives for the family's public debut. Looking exceptionally dashing, the blonde-haired Duke steps forward in his matching forest green uniform. Melissa looks on in surprise as Lucian politely announces that their royal carriage is fully prepared. Catching himself acting too chivalrous out of habit, the proud Duke blushes slightly in embarrassment. Charging forward, the enthusiastic princess firmly snatches both of their hands to lock them into the journey. Chloe beams with absolute delight, declaring that their matching outfits make them feel like a real family. Overwhelmed by her pure happiness, her rival parents exchange a soft, unexpectedly gentle glance. Standing united, the three of them take their first steps toward a brand new destiny together. A magnificent carriage thunders down the forest path, racing toward the high-stakes assembly. Pressing her face to the glass, Chloe marvels at her very first conscious journey outside the estate. When she asks about the travel time, her father casually reveals an incredibly short trip lies ahead. Shocked by his answer, she learns they will be utilizing legendary long-distance teleportation magic to cross the borders. As the fabled Eagle territory draws near, the little princess wonders what thrilling mysteries await her at the heroine's estate. A blinding magical light erupts as the little princess marvels at the incredible power of teleportation magic. With a flash of bright energy, the carriage crosses over the magical threshold. Sparkles of light fade as the magnificent forest green carriage successfully emerges on the other side. Clear blue skies and light clouds welcome the travelers to their destination. A polite voice announces their arrival as they prepare to exit the vehicle. Stepping into the legendary Eagle territory, Chloe's excitement quickly turns to overwhelming dizziness. Groaning in sudden pain, the little princess stumbles as her mother notices her distress. Panic fills the air as her mother cries out in sudden alarm. Her mother's worried face begins to fade as Chloe's consciousness slips away. A desperate plea echoes as the young princess fights to stay awake. Sweating and terrified, Chloe panics, fearing she might accidentally transform back into her abbot. Dark, magical energy swirls as a worried voice desperately calls Chloe's name. Tense atmosphere deepens as the secret of Chloe's magical nature hangs in the balance. Cradling her dizzy daughter, Melissa demands to know why she is suddenly unwell. The blonde-haired Duke watches with deep concern, feeling guilty for his daughter's suffering. Melissa anxiously asks if this magical pain is permanent, but is quickly reassured. To her immense relief, Chloe realizes the dizzy spell is already starting to fade. She frantically checks her head to ensure no rabbit ears have sprouted. Looking up at her anxious mother, Chloe softly assures her that she is fine. Melissa checks her temperature as Chloe insists she is completely recovered from the magic. Whispering in secret, the younger blonde brother asks about legendary family lineage symptoms. The blonde-haired Duke suppresses his rising hope, reminding himself of their secret bloodline. An ominous question hangs in the air, threatening to reveal Chloe's true origin. The fateful chapter begins as the family prepares to enter the Grand Assembly. A magnificent white castle stands tall under the bright blue sky, awaiting the guests. A majestic stone eagle statue guards the entrance to the prestigious estate. Footsteps echo down the grand hallway as the visitors finally arrive. The heavy doors swing open as the announcer loudly proclaims the family's entrance. Whispers immediately break out among the nobles as they spot the child of prophecy. Dark, malicious rumors of abuse circulate among the crowd as Chloe passes by. Defying all rumors, the adorable princess shines with pure sparkling innocence. Wearing her finest gown, Chloe is determined to shatter every false rumor today. Chloe glances back as the gossiping nobles watch her in complete awe. Her overwhelming charm and sweet demeanor completely captivate the skeptical crowd. Struck by her devastating cuteness, the gossiping nobles quickly regret their harsh words. Skipping with joy, Chloe is thrilled that her master plan is working flawlessly. A sense of anticipation fills the grand hall as the meeting draws near. Skeptical eyes follow the family, waiting for the high-stakes summit to begin. Seated on a lavish golden chair, Chloe marvels at the majestic palace interior. Chloe's green eyes suddenly widen in surprise as a legendary figure enters the room. A distinguished man with a noticeable limp and cane slowly steps forward. Chloe instantly recognizes Lord Sunrider Grevis, the father of the original female lead. Flashbacks reveal the noble sacrifices he made to rescue his beloved family. Known for his unmatched integrity, the legendary hero commands absolute respect in the novel. Chloe squeals with pure excitement, thrilled to finally meet her idol in person. Suddenly, a crucial realization dawns on the clever little princess. A young red-haired lady shyly steps out from behind her heroic father. The adorable red-haired girl is revealed, capturing everyone's attention with her sweet smile. Lost in deep thought, Chloe is gently brought back to reality by her mother. Melissa kindly advises Chloe to play outside before the high-stakes meeting officially begins. Stepping into the lion's den, the blonde-haired Duke braces himself for the high-stakes political battle ahead. Knowing the massive stakes, Chloe prepares for her secret mission to charm the children of the rival families. With a dazzling smile, the clever princess resolves to make this playdate a resounding success. Sunlight bathes the palace garden, setting the stage for an unexpected gathering. Chloe walks toward the courtyard, reminding herself of the strict rules keeping children out of the main summit. Spotting her targets, the princess knows uniting these divided families is the key to preventing a catastrophic future. Memories of the bloody, tragic war between the Beast clans flash before her eyes. Clutching her dress tightly, she vows to act as the ultimate mediator to rewrite their bloody fate. Determined to break the cycle of hatred, she prepares to approach the other children. Diana notices Chloe's approach, her eyes widening in surprise as the newcomer walks over. The young red-haired girl turns, her curiosity piqued by the mysterious little princess. Breaking the ice, Diana warmly invites Chloe to join them in play. Delicate flowers bloom, mirroring the budding friendship between the two young girls. Feeling a wave of relief, Chloe eagerly accepts the warm and welcoming invitation. Sitting at the table, Chloe is delighted to find the heroine is just as sweet as described. The other children, Lily, Austin, and an owl beastkin named Aria, introduce themselves with friendly smiles. Chloe introduces herself warmly, hoping to forge a strong, unbreakable bond with her new companions. The princess giggles happily, completely winning over the hearts of the table. Seeing the perfect atmosphere, Chloe prepares to launch her secret charm offensive. Chloe casually shows off her beautiful emerald bracelet, instantly catching Lily's amazed attention. She explains the glowing bracelet is imbued with legendary long-distance teleportation magic. Reaching into her bag, Chloe generously offers to share these rare magical treasures with their new friends. She reassures them that her wealthy father gifted her plenty of magical items to share. Grinning brightly, Chloe presents a handful of glittering, multicolored magic stone accessories. A nervous sweat drops as she eagerly awaits the reactions to her ultimate gesture of friendship. Diana grips the pink magic stone tightly, her expression darkening with pity as she assumes Chloe was abused. Chloe notices Diana's sudden, gloomy look and panics, fearing she picked the wrong color. Diana quickly reassures her, explaining she wants to save this valuable treasure for her beloved mother. Selfless gesture touches everyone, showcasing the heroine's pure and gentle heart. Watching Diana admire the red stone, Chloe is deeply moved by her incredible kindness. Suddenly, a mocking voice cuts through the warm air, questioning Chloe's desperate need for attention. Chloe's gaze shifts to Zion, who sits coldly with his back turned to the group. Surprised by the sudden hostility, the princess turns to face her detractor. Zion turns his head, staring back at her with a chillingly cold, skeptical gaze. Refusing to be deterred, Chloe cheerfully runs over to offer him a sparkling green gem. In a shocking display of hostility, Zion rudely slaps her peace offering away. Zion coldly rejects the rare gift, accusing Chloe of wearing a fake, cheerful mask. He bluntly asserts that no amount of pretending can hide the fact that she was abused. Heavy, suffocating silence falls over the garden as his harsh words echo. Trembling with rising anger, Chloe clutches her jewel, refusing to let his lies go unchallenged. A dark, tense aura envelops the two children as the confrontation intensifies. Chloe angrily fires back, demanding to know why he keeps spreading such ridiculous rumors. Zion steps forward aggressively, demanding to know why she continues to deny the truth. Pointing a finger, Zion insists he can see through her lies and knows she suffered abuse. Chloe stares in sheer bewilderment, realizing Zion is bizarrely obsessed with proving her life is miserable. The dark atmosphere grows heavier as she recalls an unsettling detail about his past. Remembering the empty, vacant look in his eyes from their first meeting, she realizes his hostility stems from a deeper pain. Looking at his defensive stance, Chloe wonders if she is seeing a mirror of her own past suffering in him. A chilling question arises as she suspects Zion's cold exterior hides his own miserable childhood. Chloe realizes she assumed he was happy just because he was the story's main lead, leaving her to wonder what dark secrets he is hiding. Determined to uncover the truth, Chloe directly confronts Zion about his strange obsession with her being abused. Gazing at her with intense sadness, Zion admits she closely resembles someone he failed to protect.
Chloe is left completely stunned by his tragic revelation as he continues explaining his motives.
A gentle breeze stirs Zion's black hair as a heavy, sorrowful silence falls over them. Zion looks away, his cold facade cracking to reveal a deep, lingering sorrow.
Confused and overwhelmed, Chloe struggles to understand why he would feel so protective of her.
Leaning in, Zion bluntly mocks her desperate need for affection, calling her truly pitiful. Annoyed by his hurtful words, Chloe grabs his collar, refusing to let his attitude slide. Losing her temper, Chloe angrily commands Zion to stop acting so ridiculous. Fuming with frustration, the princess storms away from the garden, leaving him behind. Spotting her sudden departure, Diana looks on with absolute confusion and worry. Diana immediately rushes over to Zion, asking what caused their loud, heated argument. Zion stands alone, refusing to answer as he stares down in silence. On the ground, Zion notices Chloe's sparkling green gemstone brooch left behind in the dirt. He gently picks up the beautiful green accessory, examining its intricate glowing details. Clutching her lost green brooch, Zion gazes at it with a thoughtful and softened expression. Peaceful blue flowers sway in the garden, marking a quiet transition in the estate. Bright sunlight breaks through the clouds as the scene shifts back to the carriage. Inside the moving carriage, the family discusses a rival family trying to avoid a broken engagement. Ian, the younger blonde brother, scowls, declaring he will handle the annulment paperwork in person. The blonde-haired Duke calmly agrees to send the official letter as soon as they arrive. Melissa reacts with shock and concern, questioning why they must visit that specific place. Chibi versions of the couple bicker slightly as the Duke insists on finalizing the voided contract. Melissa's attention is suddenly drawn to Chloe, who sits in a gloomy, dark daze. Lost in her thoughts, Chloe remains enveloped in a tense purple aura of worry. Fearing her daughter is feeling dizzy again, Melissa anxiously offers to halt the carriage.
Snapping out of her daze, Chloe gently tells her mother she has something important to ask.
Chloe raises a hypothetical scenario about a child suffering from domestic abuse, shocking her parents. Placing a reassuring hand on Chloe's shoulder, Melissa urges her to explain her sudden concern.
Sensing their rising panic, Chloe quickly laughs it off, claiming she was just curious.
The blonde-haired Duke remains completely silent, his expression growing deeply serious and concerned. Ian breaks the silence, explaining that nobility cannot legally intervene in another household's private abuse. A mysterious exception is mentioned, pointing directly to the notorious Demos family. Pulling her daughter close, Melissa reacts in surprise as Chloe wonders about the family's name. Ian begins detailing the Demos family's dark history of harming their own children until the Duke silences him. Hearing this horrifying revelation, Chloe's green eyes widen in absolute terror. As the Duke glares sternly, Ian grumbles, wondering why he is always the one getting scolded.
Still deeply curious, Chibi Chloe desperately wants to learn more about the forbidden topic.
Giving in, the Duke explains that the Demos family received severe punishments for their historical crimes. An ominous explanation reveals that any abused Demos heir can legally be isolated and protected elsewhere. Nodding understandingly, Chloe politely thanks her father for clarifying the legal rules. Quietly reflecting, Chloe begins putting the pieces of the puzzle together in her mind. She recalls the novel's lore where the Demos family possessed magical powers tied to nature. Coiling snakes represent the dark decay of their magic, which eventually weakened over generations. To regain their supreme power, the Demos family horrifyingly extracted life force from their own bloodlines. Chloe's heart sinks as she realizes the terrifying reality of what might have happened. Horrified, she vows to investigate if Zion is currently suffering this cruel fate once she visits his home. The scene shifts past the clouds as the carriage finally arrives at their next destination. A massive, elegant white mansion with grand balconies stands tall into the clear sky.
Stepping inside, Chloe immediately asks a maid if the Duke is currently in his office.
Running through the grand corridors, a panicked Chloe bursts into the room, desperately searching for her father. Her little legs carry her forward as fast as possible, driven by a growing sense of urgency. Peeking around a corner, Chloe freezes when she overhears Melissa coldly refusing to speak to Ian. Tensions flare in the garden as Ian desperately demands to know why Melissa left so abruptly back then. Ian confronts Melissa directly, his expression strained as he pleads for her to stop being so frustrating. Hiding behind a stone pillar, a sweating Chloe listens intently as the adult's argument grows increasingly heated. Frustrated by the stubborn silence, Ian aggressively ruffles his hair while ranting about the unfair blame. Melissa responds with a chilling, knowing smirk, confirming that he at least acknowledges his past mistakes. A tense question hangs heavily in the air, asking if the past events were truly bad enough to warrant such drastic actions. Melissa turns around with crossed arms, demanding to know what she is being accused of doing. The atmosphere darkens as Ian drops a devastating bombshell, bluntly accusing Melissa of cheating. Ian delivers the final crushing blow, declaring that Duke Lucian is not Chloe's real father. A shocking realization shatters Chloe's entire world, cracking the very foundation of her reality. Dumbfounded by the horrific revelation, Chloe can barely process the words echoing through her mind. Clutching her yellow dress in complete horror, Chloe struggles to accept the shocking family secret she just uncovered. She remembers the gentle face of Duke Lucian, a man who always looked so elegant and thoughtful. Recalling Duke Lucian's warm, loving smile, Chloe feels a deep ache in her heart over the potential lie. The agonizing question of her true parentage shatters her heart like cracked glass, leaving her in utter despair. A heavy darkness falls over the estate as the terrifying truth threatens to destroy their peaceful lives. The looming shadow of betrayal and hidden secrets casts a cold chill over the entire household.
Beautiful memories of happier times fade away, replaced by the grim and uncertain future that lies ahead. The cruel reality that her beloved father might not be her blood relative echoes painfully in her mind. Trembling with grief, Chloe fights back tears as she stands alone in the suffocating silence. Staring down at her feet, Chloe's mind races with confusion and fear about her hidden lineage. Lost in a sea of hopelessness, she desperately wonders how she can possibly face her family now. Huddled miserably against the wall, the poor princess curls up in a ball, completely overwhelmed by her grief. Suddenly, a concerned, gray-haired servant spots Chloe hiding and calls out to her in relief. Nearby, the heated argument continues as Ian wonders who her real biological father could possibly be. Hearing the voice, the startled servant's eyes widen in alarm, sensing the grave nature of the conversation. Ian fires back angrily, questioning why such a ridiculous and defensive question is being asked now. Sweat dripping down his face, Ian yells in sheer frustration, unable to contain his rising temper. He prepares to reveal the forbidden name, stating once more that his brother is not Chloe's real father. Ian yells out the alleged father's name, pointing the blame directly at a man named Brooks Lowell. Shocking accusation leaves both Chloe and the gray-haired servant standing in stunned, frozen silence. The gray-haired servant's eyes widen in absolute disbelief, completely paralyzed by the scandalous claim. Deep in the shadows, a bewildered voice demands to know what kind of nonsense is being spoken. Melissa reacts in absolute outrage, sweating as she furiously points out that Sir Brooks is already happily married with an adorable daughter. Clenching her hand against her chest, Melissa trembles with rage as the scandalous confrontation reaches a boiling point, leaving Chloe's fate hanging in the balance.